One introduction ROSEP view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. ROSEP view purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or ROSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this ROSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, residents against wood smoke emission particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025 and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHXZj November 13, 2025, what a pro-vaccine doc learned at an anti-vax conference. In Webisode 57DHXZj, one U.S. House Democratic discharge petition to force consideration of expiring Obamacare subsidies to the Epstein Shutdown ends 5 ways our healthcare system has become utterly insane. 4. How to pick up the local language before you travel. 5. Opinion Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes, and the Groyper Problem of the Right. 6. Train Dreams, a movie review. 7. Vance calls MAHA movement an incredible part of Trump's success. 8. What a pro-vaccine doc learned at an anti-vax conference. Main content. One U.S. House Democratic discharge petition to force consideration of expiring Obamacare subsidies. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Hill. November 13, 2025. House Democratic leaders introduced a discharge petition Wednesday designed to force consideration of legislation to extend expiring Obamacare subsidies for another 3 years. Behind House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York. The Democrats are hoping to entice a handful of moderate Republicans to endorse the petition, which will require 218 signatures, to force a floor vote on the legislation over the objections of Republican leaders. The battle over the Enhanced Affordable Care Act (ACA) tax credits has consumed Capitol Hill throughout the history, making federal shutdown as Democrats had demanded action on the subsidies as a condition of reopening the government. Republicans who have sought to repeal Obamacare for years rejected that demand, and they won the long standoff over the weekend when a small group of Senate Democrats cut a bipartisan deal to reopen the government without any GOP concessions on the healthcare subsidies. As part of that deal, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, has guaranteed the Democrats a vote on the ACA tax credits in December, but Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, has declined to make a similar commitment. The House discharge petition is designed to go around Johnson and force the bill to the floor if it can get a majority of House lawmakers to sign on. While Obamacare has been a partisan issue for years, some Republicans are already clamoring for an extension of the subsidies, urging GOP leaders to address the issue before the premium hikes go into effect on January 1, 2026. Ahead of the midterm elections, legislation sponsored by Representative Jen Kiggins RVA would extend the tax credits for 1 year. It has the support of 14 other centrist Republicans, many of them facing tough re-election contests next year. It is unclear if any of those lawmakers would take the additional step of bucking their leadership by endorsing the Democratic discharge petition. To the Epstein Shutdown ends. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Substack letters from an American. Heather Cox Richardson, November 12, 2025. It turns out Representative Eric Swalwell, DCA, and House Democrats were right to call it the Epstein Shutdown for the last several weeks on social media and in interviews, as Mark Elias of Democracy Docket put it today. While it was clear what the Democrats wanted from the shutdown, lower costs for healthcare insurance premiums, affordability, and for Trump to stop breaking the law, it was never clear what the Republicans wanted. They seemed simply to be doing as Trump demanded. Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, kept House members from conducting any business at all. The House last voted on September 19th, gathering in Washington, D.C. again only after the Senate on Monday passed a measure to reopen the government. The hiatus gave Johnson an excuse not to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, Democrat of Arizona, whose voters elected her on September 23. Grijalva had promised to be the 218th and final vote on a discharge petition that would force the House to vote on a measure that would require the Department of Justice to release files relating to the government investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Elias notes that he, like many of us, considered as plausible the idea that the government shutdown was a way to keep the Epstein files under wraps. But there were other plausible theories as well. Maybe Trump and his cronies wanted to gut the federal workforce. Maybe they wanted to undermine the Affordable Care Act. Maybe Trump simply wanted to run the country without the interference of Congress. Today put the Epstein files firmly in the center of the story. The House got down to business this morning after a 54-day break to work on the Senate measure to reopen the government. Democrats on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform immediately released 3 emails from a cache of more than 23,000 documents the committee received recently from the Epstein estate. As Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, who backed the House discharge petition, told CNN, this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president. And what are you going to do in 2028 and 2030 when you are in a debate and they say, how can we trust you? You covered up for a pedophile back in 2025. Midday today, as new revelations from the Epstein documents were hitting social media every few minutes. Representative Swalwell posted, this is the beginning of the end. Tonight the House passed the continuing resolution of the Senate to fund the government, ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. 43 days. The vote was 222 to 209, with all but 2 Republicans voting in favor and all but 6 Democrats voting against it, saying they would not support a continuing resolution that did not extend the premium tax credits for healthcare insurance purchased on the Affordable Care Act markets. Republicans neglected to extend those credits in their budget reconciliation bill of July, the one they call the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And without them, millions of Americans will be unable to afford healthcare coverage, and premiums will skyrocket for millions more. The measure funds the government through January 30th, 2026, overturns the layoffs of federal employees administration officials made during the shutdown and guarantees pay for workers and appropriates money to pay for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program SNAP benefits through September 2026, taking them out of the Trump hands as a pressure point in January, failing to get an extension of the healthcare premium tax credits into the continuing resolution. House Democrats filed a discharge petition to force the House to vote on a measure that would extend the credits for 3 years. There are only 2 ways this fight will end. Republican Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York, told his colleagues Republicans could finally decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year and in the speakership of Trump once and for all. 5 ways our healthcare system has become utterly insane. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, your local epidemiologist, November 13, 2025. A deep dive into the U.S. healthcare system, rising costs, corporate takeover, and why reform keeps failing. We could be on the verge of ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, though nothing is guaranteed. While Congress debates whether to extend subsidies for the Affordable Care Act (ACA) coverage, Americans with all types of insurance are bracing for higher premiums, narrower networks, and more impossible choices. So to me, the debate in Washington is far too small. The real story is not just whether subsidies stay or go, it is how completely insane our healthcare system has become and whether there will be a serious effort to address underlying costs in the system. I know just enough to get in trouble, so I partnered with a leading national policy expert in this area to break down the 5 ways the entire system has gone off the rails. Let us dig in. 1. Cost versus wages. A 20-year disconnect over the past 2 decades. The cost of employer-sponsored health insurance, how the vast majority of privately insured Americans obtain their health care, has skyrocketed. Premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs have all soared far faster than wages. This widening gap means workers earn less even when their salaries rise. On paper, every dollar going to premiums is a dollar not going to rent, groceries, or childcare, and the human toll is clear. 1 in 3 Americans has medical debt, and more than half worry they will fall into debt anytime they use the healthcare system. That fear changes behavior. People delay appointments, skip medications, or avoid care altogether. Medical debt is now the most common form of debt in collections, ahead of credit cards, utilities, or personal loans. Nearly 60% of those in medical debt have insurance too. We pay the most and get the least. The United States spends far more on healthcare than any other wealthy country, yet achieves worse outcomes, less access, and a more demoralized workforce. Despite record spending, Americans live shorter, sicker lives than peers in Europe, Canada, or Japan. Infant mortality, maternal mortality, and chronic disease rates all rank near the worst among high-income nations. A key reason is that we pour money into specialty medical services while underinvesting in prevention, such as primary care and social supports like housing and nutrition access. Critics often argue that at least we do not have long wait times like other countries. However, increasingly the opposite is true, and this is never a fair comparison, as we spend twice as much as they do. More than 100 million Americans live in a primary care desert, while almost 60 million live in a pharmacy desert. Services to treat mental health are notoriously lacking, and Medicare does not even cover long-term care. Clinician workforce, healthcare workers are burning out or leaving the profession altogether. Home healthcare aides are paid extremely low wages for heroic work as corporations attempt to convert salary positions into gig work. Some nurses are compelled to bid against one another for shifts. Many physicians report moral injury working in systems that prioritize billing over care, eroding autonomy and morale. 3 Americans do not overconsume healthcare. Prices and private bloat drive costs. There is a common myth, especially amongst policymakers, that we spend too much on healthcare because we consume too much of it. A similar narrative has taken hold about doctors because they get paid for each service they provide. Too much care. Certainly, there is low-value care in the U.S. healthcare system, and as profit-seeking corporate actors own more and more of the system, they are finding ways to bill for more and more expensive services. But Americans do not visit the doctor more, we do not go to the hospital more, and we do not stay in the hospital for longer. We even get significantly fewer of many of the most popular procedures like coronary angioplasties, knee replacements, hip replacements, and gallbladder and prostate removals. The real difference is price. A colonoscopy or MRI can cost 10 times more at one hospital than another across town, depending on which insurer you have. These differences have little to do with quality or cost of care. They are the result of opaque negotiations between insurers, hospitals, and pharmacy benefit managers, and other middlemen in the system. We have created a system where no one knows what anything costs, not the doctor, not the patient, sometimes not even the insurer. The surprise bill arrives weeks later on top of high prices. Our system is drowning in private sector bloat and bureaucracy, more so than any other country. Every insurer has its own prices and endless price negotiations with providers, billing processes, prior authorization rules, and reporting requirements. The result is staggering inefficiency. Roughly 1 in 4 dollars spent on health insurance goes to something other than care, like marketing, billing, profits, or middlemen. Doctors spend nearly half their time on paperwork. Patients spend hours on hold fighting over denied claims, and all of it is baked into costs. For corporate and financial firms have taken over care. Perhaps the most underappreciated transformation of the past 40 years is the corporate consolidation and financialization of medicine. Care delivery, once local and community-based, is now dominated by corporations. Vertical consolidation is now a defining feature of American healthcare. United Health Group is not just the largest insurer, it is also the largest employer of physicians and the largest operator of home health and hospice agencies. CVS Health, the largest pharmacy chain, also owns the biggest pharmacy benefit managers, and now giant insurer Aetna McKesson, pharmaceutical distributor, now operates the largest chain of oncology practices in the nation and is rapidly expanding into other specialties. These combinations raise all the conflicts of interest you would expect. Higher prices, business steered away from independent providers and pharmacies, gaming regulations, and more hospitals have been on a similar trajectory. No longer charitable facilities, they have been buying up physician practices, starting insurance plans, and operating financial investment firms. Public hospitals have declined sharply, while giant for-profit systems have expanded nationwide. In half of U.S. metro areas, just 1 or 2 systems dominate the market. Then there is private equity. PE. From 2000 to 2020, the PE footprint in healthcare exploded 25-fold, from $5 billion to more than $100 billion a year in deals totaling over $1 trillion. Private equity firms now own everything from nursing homes and hospices to emergency departments and physician practices. Their model is simple: buy up fragmented practices, cut labor costs, raise prices, and resell for profit. Evidence shows quality declines, and in some cases mortality rises after PE takeovers. 5 existing approaches have failed. And the latest proposals are more of the same. None of this happened by coincidence. Our current governing approach began in the 1980s when a bipartisan consensus emerged around how to address accelerating costs in the system. The idea was to embrace more free market principles in healthcare, resulting in 3 significant shifts in how we approach policy. 1. Private insurers compete for patients, called managed competition, which was hypothesized to lower costs and improve quality. In reality, the government pays hundreds of billions to the largest insurance companies in the nation, which now operate most of Medicaid and Medicare and all of the ACA exchanges. The same happened with prescription drugs. Instead of Medicare negotiating prices directly with pharmaceuticals, it is now the job of pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, costing Americans more. 2. Over-reliance on economic incentives. The notion that physicians and patients will not do the right thing unless they have more skin in the game. Democrats embrace this ideology by pushing physicians into value-based care, a rebranding of HMO-style managed care, and a close cousin of privatized Medicare on the patient side. Republicans insisted that they actually needed higher deductibles so they would ration their care more wisely. But again, Americans do not use too much health care, plus a patient cannot shop for emergency surgery or chemotherapy. 3. Commercialization. The U.S. began converting public hospitals to for-profit chains and abandoned care delivery models with commitments to voluntarism, for example, actual nonprofits, and professional ethics, for example, clinician-owned medical clinics. The current debate recycles the same logic: more private control, higher out-of-pocket costs, and less regulation of prices or profits. The latest idea is that deductibles need to be higher and patients do not pay enough. This approach has failed for 40 years. It will continue to fail because it does not address the true crisis of U.S. healthcare: high costs from high prices, especially for new technology consolidation and extraction at every level, and lackluster and misallocated capacity. Bottom line, the U.S. healthcare system is uniquely dysfunctional. A different approach is entirely possible if we have the will to boldly govern the healthcare system in the interest of patients, clinicians, and taxpayers. That means directly tackling prices, eliminating middlemen, and breaking up behemoths. It also means returning ownership of care delivery to clinicians and communities and pursuing a strategy that builds the workforce and capacity to meet the needs of Americans' health. Touches everyone, and we need a system that works for us, not one that makes us work for it. Love, YLE and HRL. 4. How to pick up the local language before you travel. Speaking, even trying to speak a language, will help open doors on your next trip, and achieving a survival level might be easier than you think. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, July 21, 2025. There are plenty of reasons to learn a foreign language before you travel. Perhaps you are venturing beyond major tourist centers, or you want to be prepared for emergencies. Whatever the reason, speaking even a few words of the local language with residents can quickly elevate you from mere tourist to sympathetic traveler. Aim to reach a survival level before you travel. That means abandoning your inhibitions and not getting hung up on grammar or achieving proficiency. Travelers can connect and communicate surprisingly well at this level, which he described as a speaking style akin to that of a toddler that gets the point across. Reaching survival level means focusing on a core of essential verbs, words like go, see, eat, drink, have, do, and be, then learning a small vocabulary of other words centered on your particular interests for a given trip. Then you can literally build 100 sentences around that. Learning those right words does not happen overnight. Getting beyond the transactional tourist tropes of where's the bathroom and check please, for example, can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months of daily practice, although everyone learns differently. As with a fitness program, you get out of language study what you put in. The trick is finding what works for you. Hit the apps. Diplomats, chief executives, and missionaries often learn languages in high-intensity, immersive environments with dedicated instructors. For the rest of us, an app is often the first step. One language learning expert prefers Babel. More important than any specific app or method is to get started right away and practice every day. Shorter, consistent sessions are more effective than longer, sporadic ones. There is a big time and effort commitment when you learn a language, so you definitely need to find something that you enjoy, making it more fun to practice regularly. She added, test out different apps like Duolingo, Babel, Memrise, and Busuu, which all offer either free versions or free trials to see which one works for you. The language expert recommends systems that employ spaced repetition and evidence-based learning technique that reviews and repeats material at increasing intervals. Some apps, like Duolingo, use spaced repetition, but do not always provide authentic cultural context, which is important for learning intuitively. Some learners have had success conversing and drilling with AI chatbots in voice mode, and Google, whose Translate app is already indispensable for travelers, recently released Little Language Lessons, a free, customizable interactive tool that uses AI speaking with another person can help you make progress. In apps like HelloTalk or Tandem, which both offer free versions, can be a good way to find a partner who speaks your target language and wants to learn English for an entertaining way to learn. Stream a foreign movie or TV show, turn on the English subtitles, and try to follow along to improve listening comprehension. Queue up music in a foreign language and view the lyrics using Spotify. If apps are not your thing, consider time-tested alternatives like in-person classes, language groups, practice sessions with a fluent friend, books, audio guides, or flashcards. Many of these resources are free at your local library. Be brave and resist falling back on English. Do not fear being laughed at or scolded for speaking imperfectly. Once you are at your destination, resist the urge to initiate or respond in English and try to speak the local language whenever people are receptive. It is fine to seek help with pronunciation or in finding the right word, or to ask speakers to slow down or repeat themselves. You are going to make mistakes and run into limits, and that is all right. You do not need thousands of words, just the right ones and the confidence to use them. Headlines: The New York Times, November 14, 2025. Alaska dirty energy. Trump administration revokes Biden ban on drilling and mining in Alaska wilderness. The New York Times, art 5 apps that will make you love art galleries. The New York Times, California Democrat Rozep view mortgage fraud in this case does not exist. The U.S. representative, like all sane adults, is guilty of not holding a 50-year mortgage. However, the president of the U.S. is enamored of lawsuits, such as suing the person who lobbed a sandwich recently and was recently acquitted from the article. Headline: U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell denies allegations of fraud and says Trump is targeting him. The New York Times, consumers' recipes. Rozep view if the density of tofu can be alleviated using leavening agents, and if the taste of tofu can be masked by certain magical ingredients, then tofu bakery products could be acceptable food choices from the article headline in defense of tofu-s, giving the New York Times Democrats. An irrational Democratic leader Rozep view U.S. politics can use more Jeffrey's intellect. And less Trumpian bluster. The public is sick of Trump, as Trump low popularity polls show from the article headline opinion. Hakeem Jeffries is cool and controlled. Democrats want fiery and combative. The New York Times Groyper is a synonym of stupid. Rozep view Groyper makes Groypers feel at home in their world, which revolves around each selfish, stupid individual, which inhabits it. For those of us who live in the real world, where we care about each other, Groyper is of course anathema. Like every stupidity surrounding Trump, we liberal Democrats have to look up the definition of the infantile word and shudder. From the article headline 5 opinion Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes and the Groyper Problem of the Right. The New York Times Indiana excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. AI overview. A Groyper refers to a supporter or follower of the far-right white nationalist political commentator in podcaster Nick Fuentes. The term also refers to the broader movement associated with him known as the Groyper movement or the Groyper army. Origin of the term. The term originated on internet forums like 4chan and is named after the Groyper toad image, a more explicitly racist, coded, and smug-looking variation of the popular Pepe the Frog meme. The image became popular among internet trolls and alt-right users seeking a new, edgier symbol when the Pepe meme started to be adopted by mainstream culture ideology. Groypers generally subscribe to white nationalist and Christian nationalist ideologies. Key beliefs and characteristics include America First ideology stolen from mainstream politics. Their version advocates for a white European American identity and culture, opposing immigration and LGBTQ+ rights. Opposition to mainstream conservatism. They view mainstream conservative figures and organizations, sometimes referred to as Conservative Inc., as weak and having sold out on culture war issues. Recruitment tactics. They often use internet memes, social media trolling, and real-life activism, such as disrupting conservative events by asking loaded questions to attract disaffected young people. Generation Z, and normalize their extreme views within mainstream conservatism. Conspiracy theories. They often promote conspiracy theories, such as the white genocide theory, which claims the white race is being destroyed by societal changes. Rozep view. The lesson consisted of presenting proof that MAGA Trumpists resemble traditional white supremacists. From the article headline professor removed from class over white supremacy lesson. The New York Times Kash Patel far-right fixation on January 6th. Pipe bomb suspect reaches FBI top ranks. The New York Times Kentucky Rozep view Democrat to replace Mitch McConnell. From the article headline Dale Romans enters Kentucky Senate race as Democratic latest long shot. The New York Times Medicine and Science Rozep view. It is a wonder that Trump FDA is protecting some consumers from some defective products. Hopefully in this instance the Trump FDA is following the scientifically proven facts. From the article headline infant formula company tied to botulism outbreak had known problems. The New York Times New Jersey Rozep view. In the wake of proof that baseball gambling influenced cheating and rigging during baseball games, a former New Jersey governor chimes in whether the Trump administration is using this scandal to refocus public attention away from the Trump Epstein fallout is another matter, which is related to the irony of Trump concern about corruption or cheating in only this instance. From the article headline opinion. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie legal gambling is good for America. The New York Times New York City Adams makes it harder for Mamdani to build over Elizabeth Street Garden. The New York Times Science and Nature. The dogs of 8000 BC were amazingly diverse. The New York Times Texas A and M Titans rules on talking about race and gender in classes. The New York Times Theater watch Leslie Manville and Mark Strong of Oedipus on Broadway go head to head. The New York Times Trump aviation. Rozep view Trump use of our tax dollars to compensate for a problem Trump created. There is no sign that even with the government open, the aviation industry under Trump will be safe and sane. That is not to say that Rozep accepts the Trump status quo of unsafe chaos. From the article headline, some TSA workers to get $10,000 bonus checks for shutdown work. The New York Times Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. The shutdown is over for many SNAP recipients. The scars remain. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout opinion. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell being pampered in prison? The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. Republicans tried to squelch the Epstein furor. Instead, they fed it. The New York Times Trump tariffs. Trump officials prepare tariff exemptions seeking to lower food prices. The New York Times United States housing here is where you can spend less than $1,000 on rent. The New York Times women Sharon Camp mother of the Plan B contraceptive pill dies at 81. The New York Times United Kingdom Rozep view Trump lawsuit for personal reasons with shades of the CBS money settlement. From the article headline BBC apologizes to Trump over film edit but declines to pay compensation. The New York Times Brazil COP30 India Rozep view indoor air filtration units for the rich. If you never step outside you may be protected. The source of the air pollution such as indoor residential wood burning or crop burning need never be addressed by the rich in India now. From the article headline An escape from the air pollution of India for those who can afford it. The New York Times Venezuela family of fishermen killed in U.S. military strike says it wants justice. The New York Times Venezuela Justice Department memo blessing boat strikes is said to rely on the Trump claims about cartels. The New York Times Venezuela U.S. strike kills 4 on boat Trump says was smuggling drugs. The New York Times France Nouvelle Vague review. The Richard Linklater ode to Breathless. The New York Times Japan Prime Minister faces backlash over 3 a.m. staff meeting. The New York Times headlines. The New York Times November 13, 2025 Alabama. When sorority influencers meet. Alabama football game days turn into a campus-wide catwalk. The Athletic. Alaska. Will people trust voting by phone? Alaska is going to find out. The New York Times artificial intelligence opinion use AI to reinvigorate democracy. not replace it. The New York Times aviation northern lights are beautiful, but for satellites they are risky. The New York Times California Trump is said to propose opening California coast to oil drilling. The New York Times California Trump Justice Department to investigate protests at Turning Point event at Berkeley. The New York Times consumers reading the best historical fiction novels to read right now. The New York Times consumers reading No Lovers on these covers. A new look in romance publishing. The New York Times consumers reading Sarah Jessica Parker describes her year as a Booker Prize judge. The New York Times consumers recipes healthy Thanksgiving recipes that will make you feel great. NYT cooking consumers recipes orange cranberry loaf recipe. Consumers recipes vegetarian casserole recipes for fall. NYT cooking consumers recipes the veggie tofu ed Thanksgiving. Democratic Party union. The Democratic National Committee DNC ordered workers back to the office. Its union is not pleased. The New York Times Democrats opinion. Democrats need an agenda ahead of the 2026 elections. The New York Times Democrats sarcasm opinion. Democrats sure taught Trump a lesson. The New York Times Democrats what if Democratic big shutdown loss turns out to be a win? The New York Times electric vehicles. The luxury electric vehicle is in trouble. The New York Times Florida Republican formerly Florida U.S. Representative how a 17-year-old girl became enmeshed in the Matt Gaetz scandal. The New York Times Games chess grandmaster faces ethics complaint after death of Daniel Naroditsky. The New York Times Games TV. Netflix is bringing video games to TVs of users. The New York Times Great Lakes shipping in the wake of the Edmund Fitzgerald. The New York Times Housing City Council approves plan that could bring 14700 homes to Queens. The New York Times Housing Hotel Sonder abruptly goes out of business after Marriott terminates licensing deal. The New York Times Housing Trump administration expected to drastically cut housing grants. The New York Times Human Interest. The absurdly long and detailed instructions we leave for pet sitters. The New York Times Illinois Democrat. The Michelle Obama new book is a historical document dressed up as a coffee table tome. The New York Times Internet modern podcast sets and online chat shows are less polished by design. The New York Times Kansas. Some Kansas Republicans resist redistricting efforts amid growing skepticism. The New York Times Louisiana. Calvin Duncan self-taught jailhouse lawyer runs for court clerk in New Orleans. The New York Times Medicine and Science. The most common signs of a heart attack. The New York Times Medicine and Science ultra-processed foods linked to colorectal cancer risk in women under 50. The New York Times Meteorology. He helped cities anticipate damage from storms. The New York Times Music. Ken Parker, who reinvented the guitar, is dead at 73. The New York Times Nature. Bird flu ravaged the largest elephant seal population study in the world finds. The New York Times New Jersey accuses mob-led ring of running illegal sports gambling. The New York Times New York Governor Hochul vetoed 7 of his bills in a single day. Could it be personal? The New York Times New York City. Zoran Mamdani opinion. Steve Bannon thinks Zoran Mamdani is a genius. It is not a feint. The New York Times New York City. Zoran Mamdani opinion. Zoran Mamdani and the future of New York. The New York Times New York House of Representatives. Democrat Eric Botcher joins crowded House primary to succeed Nadler. The New York Times Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman. Book review Unfettered by John Fetterman. The New York Times Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman. Senator who survived stroke hospitalized after fall. The New York Times Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman to publish a memoir in November. The New York Times Republican in explaining his Gaff Heritage Foundation leader pleads ignorance. The New York Times RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. The FDA moved to limit fluoride supplements as doctors worry. The New York Times RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science opinion. Cancer patients like me are casualties of the MAHA hypocrisy. The New York Times RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Rozep View Science does not agree that with RFK Jr. that we should eat more saturated fat from. The article headline What Science Says About Saturated Fats. The latest MAHA target Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich as shutdown ends. When will SNAP and air travel be back to normal? The New York Times Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. Government begins to reopen after longest ever shutdown. Trump live updates. The New York Times Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. The shutdown is over, but for federal workers the anxiety persists. The New York Times Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. The SNAP problems started long before the shutdown. The New York Times Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. What to know about SNAP, the main food aid program of America. The New York Times Trump chaos aviation flight delays and cancellations will not immediately stop when government shutdown ends. The New York Times Trump economy. U.S. Mint presses final penny after more than 200 years. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. After Trump split Epstein, said he could take him down. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. The Epstein emails. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. Former Prince Andrew and another prominent Briton come up in the Epstein emails. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. Late night pops off on Trump popping up in Epstein email thread. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. Michael Wolff, chronicler of elites, provided Epstein with advice on Trump. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. New Epstein emails alleged Trump knew of his conduct. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout opinion. Welcome to the Washington Demolition Derby. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. Trump summons Lauren Boebert as he pushes GOP to block Epstein vote. The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. What is behind the coming House vote on releasing the Epstein files? The New York Times Trump Epstein fallout. What the Epstein emails claim about the Trump knowledge of his conduct. The New York Times Trump Justice Department U.S. seeks man who appeared at Alina Habba office with baseball bat. The New York Times Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. Comey and James challenge appointment of Lindsey Halligan. Trump loyalist prosecuting them. The New York Times Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. Comey and James challenge appointment of Trump loyalist overseeing their prosecutions. The New York Times Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. Justice Department struggled to find lawyers to handle Maureen Comey suit. The New York Times Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. Opinion. The Maureen Comey case is more consequential than that of her father. The New York Times Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. Opinion. Trump v. James and Maureen Comey. The New York Times Trump pardons. Opinion. Pardon me, I am not done committing crimes. The New York Times Trump pardons runner who took prohibited shortcut on Grand Teton. The New York Times Trump shipping. Trump wants to revive shipping. He will need more mariners. The New York Times Virginia opinion. Senator Tim Kaine on why he voted to end the government Shutdown. The New York Times Washington Seattle. Katie Wilson, a political newcomer, is elected mayor in Seattle. The New York Times Washington Seattle elects a left-wing mayor with a light resume. But Mamdani appeal. The New York Times Washington D.C. business. Help how D.C. area businesses aided furloughed workers amid government shutdown. The New York Times Canada. Canadian travel to the United States falls for 10th consecutive month. The New York Times Brazil. COP30 climate. The leadership vacuum. Brazil. COP30 greenhouse gas emissions head for a record in 2025. Global Carbon Project reports. The New York Times Colombia. Gustavo Petro, the rebel turned president willing to take on Trump. The New York Times Venezuela family of fishermen killed in U.S. military strike. Says it wants justice. The New York Times Venezuela. Rubio shrugs off concerns of allies over U.S. drug strikes. The New York Times United Kingdom. Keir Starmer, the Labour Party internal fight goes public as the Starmer trouble grows. The New York Times United Kingdom. Why are England players wearing mind-altering shoes? The Athletic. Belgium. As Belgium races to save U.S. aid contraception, some supplies are reported ruined. The New York Times France. How France remembers the November 2015 terrorist attacks in Paris. The New York Times France. The mysterious Louvre detective was a 15-year-old passer by the New York Times Austria pioneering U.S. street photography. With Vienna in the background. The New York Times Ukraine. Dilemma. As Pokrovsk teeters, save lives or keep holding on. The New York Times Ukraine. I watched this haven from war Pokrovsk turn into a besieged wasteland. The New York Times Ukraine. What our photographer saw as a safe city Pokrovsk became a bloodbath. The New York Times Russia. Russian humanoid robot falls on its face in hype debut. The New York Times Saudi Arabia. U.S. officials raise concerns about the Saudi Arabia bid for F-35 jets. The New York Times Syria. Former Syrian security official indicted in Austria. The New York Times Pakistan. How the Pakistan spending blitz helped win over Trump and flip U.S. policy. The New York Times China. Opinion from here in Beijing. China does not look so strong. The New York Times China. Man accused of running Southeast Asia scam compound is extradited to China. The New York Times Japan. The China Wolf warrior diplomacy returns with threat against the Japan leader. The New York Times Philippines. Juan Ponce Enrile, a political power in the Philippines, dies at 101. The New York Times South Korea. Some South Korean workers return to Georgia factory after U.S. reissues visas. The New York Times headlines. The Guardian. November 14th. Democrat California U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell faces federal criminal inquiry for alleged mortgage fraud. U.S. politics. The Guardian. Medicine and science fighting cancer. Come see me in the Good Light review. Frank, funny and inspiring documentary tackles cancer. Documentary films. The Guardian. Medicine and science. ROSEP view medical research that has already taken place, funded partially by the U.S. federal government, is probably responsible for this medical breakthrough. Well-trained and experienced physicians and medical researchers can still be relied on as individuals to work where they can to find other and new medical breakthroughs regardless of the roadblocks the Trump federal government plans to put in front of them in an apparent war on science and modernity. From the article headline: New artificial intelligence AI tool could cut wasted efforts to transplant organs by 60%. Organ donation. The Guardian movie Future Boy by Michael J. Fox review. Secrets from the set of a definitive 80s movie autobiography and memoir. The Guardian movie Lumberjacks. ROSEP view. In a lumberjack movie, ROSEP looks for a movie plot ending in renunciation of logging and vowing to never cut down trees again mindlessly to provide air polluting wood fuel to burn senselessly when cheaper and truly clean renewable energy sources are available for home heating in 2025. For that reason alone, ROSEP was disappointed with the synopsis of the plot and ending of this movie. Presenting lumberjacking as an elegiac and elegant and grand lifestyle is a travesty. Bravely turning to another less destructive profession would have furthered the plot of this movie. This lumberjack also builds bridges presumably out of wood when steel would be the preferred and safer way to build a bridge. Unsafe bridges could possibly lead to needless loss of life when traversing a needlessly unsafe bridge, which the main character built. At the end of the movie, the character embraces the modern convenience of a plane, but is saddened by the modern presence of highways and bridges. ROSEP could understand if the main character embraced mass transit such as high-speed trains running on electricity sourced from wind and solar rather than highways filled with gas-guzzling cars. But ROSEP is puzzled that the main character picks and chooses which modern technology to embrace, not on whether it is sourced by clean energy that does not pollute the air, but rather making judgments on whether the technology is more modern than burning wood, and seemingly decrying that the technology serves other people than his lone self. From the article headline: Studio bosses were like, "It sounds lovely, we will pass." Joel Edgerton and Clint Bentley on their Oscar-tipped lumberjack tragedy movies. The Guardian excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. AI overview. 6 Train Dreams, a movie review. Clint Bentley finds quiet grandeur. The movie Train Dreams is about a logger, Robert Granier, who works on the railroad through the Pacific Northwest and falls in love with a woman named Gladys. They build a cabin and have a daughter, but tragedy strikes when a wildfire destroys their home and kills them while he is away at work. The film concludes with an elderly Robert taking one last aerial tour of the transformed landscape from a plane, looking down at the bridges he helped build and the world that has changed so dramatically since his time. Plot: Robert Granier, an orphan logger, works to carve a railroad through the Pacific Northwest wilderness. Robert becomes a solitary figure dealing with grief and loss as he moves through decades of his life. Ending as an elderly man, Robert hires a pilot to take him on a final flight over the area. From the plane, he sees the landscape from a new perspective, observing the vast changes that have occurred, including the highways and bridges that have replaced the wilderness. The film ends on this poignant and contemplative note, reflecting on his life, the passage of time, and the monumental changes wrought by industry on the natural world. Music against MAGA. I cannot be silent. I have been through too much. Dee Dee Bridgewater on Singing with the Greats and confronting MAGA with jazz. The Guardian music experience. I played the trumpet for 25 hours straight. Life in style. The Guardian. Musk Tesla recalls 10,500 Powerwall 2 battery systems in U.S. over fire risk. Tesla. The Guardian. Nature. The Great Escape. Seal flees killer whales by jumping onto the boat of the photographer. Wildlife. The Guardian. Republicans are regimented. Democrats are undisciplined. Just look at the shutdown. Robert Reich. The Guardian. Trump economy. U.S. markets struggle amid tech sell-off and economic uncertainty. Stock markets. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Emails reveal Jeffrey Epstein and associate discussed girls. In Travel Jeffrey Epstein, The Guardian Trump Epstein fallout. Jeffrey Epstein advised Steve Bannon during 2018 pro-Trump media campaign. Steve Bannon, The Guardian Trump Epstein fallout. Trump news. At a glance, president faces potentially damaging congressional vote over releasing Epstein files. Trump administration, The Guardian Trump Epstein fallout. Trump faces prospect of congressional vote on releasing Epstein files. Donald Trump, The Guardian Trump sports stadium name fallout. Can Donald Trump really make an NFL team name its stadium after him? Washington Commanders, The Guardian Trump sports TV station fallout from conscience to platforming Trump inside the slow death of woke. ESPN US sports, The Guardian Brazil COP30, United Kingdom dark forces are preventing us fighting the climate crisis by taking knowledge hostage. George Monbiot, The Guardian Brazil COP30, European Union. Once a global leader on climate action, the EU has given in to the green bashing of the right. Natalie Tochi, The Guardian Brazil COP30 Spain, we are proud to be pioneers inside the Spain community energy revolution. Solar power, The Guardian Brazil COP30 India Delhi, lifting the constant black cloud, how a smog-bound city cut dangerous levels of air pollution. Air pollution, The Guardian United Kingdom TV, Lisa Nandy BBC Review will examine political appointments to board. BBC, The Guardian Europe Rozep view, the word coined by Trump for anti-fascism. Antifa sounds infantile. Antifa is not what anti-fascist individuals call themselves. An individual being against fascism is a good thing. That means that individual is open to or supports liberal democracy and representation of all citizens in a democracy. If an individual is conversely pro-fascism, or to use the term pro-FA, which also sounds infantile, that would be a problem for the society that person lives in, and pro-FA is a problem for the health and safety of all individuals in that society who are not fascist. From the article headline, U.S. designates 4 European groups against fascists as terrorist threats. U.S. foreign policy, The Guardian. Denmark, United Kingdom, the UK wants to emulate the Denmark hardline asylum model, but what does it actually look like? Migration, The Guardian Ukraine war briefing, flamingo flies into battle. Zelensky defers to commanders over Pokrovsk. Ukraine, The Guardian Ukraine, what are Tomahawk missiles, and why does Ukraine want them? Ukraine, The Guardian Ukraine, Zelensky condemns the Russia wicked overnight attack on Ukraine. Europe Live Sudan, I still cannot believe I am alive. Sudanese civilians recount their flight from El Fasher video. Sudan, The Guardian India, or Pakistan, or China, women born in the forest, the women giving birth alone in the Kashmiri mountains. Maternal health, The Guardian Rozep view, AI overview. The Kashmiri mountain region is a disputed territory and its areas are administered by India, Pakistan, and China. Both India and Pakistan claim the entire region in full, but control only certain parts of it. The major mountain ranges in the area, including the Himalayas and the Karakoram, run through the various administered territories. China, global markets fall after tech sell off, and fears over Chinese economy. Stock markets, The Guardian Japan, 2 hours a night. The Japan PM sleep schedule prompts concerns about work-life balance. Japan, The Guardian. Headlines, The Guardian, November 13, 2025. Art, it is unexpected joy. The guerrilla mosaic artists adding color to potholes, benches, and bomb craters. Art, The Guardian. Artificial intelligence, Anthropic announces $50 billion plan for data center construction in U.S. Artificial intelligence, AI. The Guardian. Automobiles, robocars. Rozep view, are cars which drive themselves always electric? From the article headline, the race begins to make the best autonomous driving cars in the world. Technology, The Guardian. Automobiles, robotaxis. Waymo announces that its robotaxis will drive freeways for the first time. Technology, The Guardian. Bird flu fears for elephant seals as bird flu kills half of population in South Atlantic. Bird flu, The Guardian. California Democrats, Trump U.S. Justice Department joins lawsuit to block the California new electoral map. Trump administration, The Guardian. Consumers crime, fighting travel, how to avoid pickpockets and street scams when traveling. The New York Times. Consumers exercise, is it true that the harder you work out the more you sweat? Fitness, The Guardian. Consumers juicers, the 5 best juicers in the U.S. with the least mess, noise, and cleanup life. And style, The Guardian. Consumers laundry baskets, I tried 10 laundry baskets to find the best hamper in the U.S. These are my favorites after at home testing life. And style, The Guardian. Consumers reading history of the U.S. West, every account is slightly different. Who were the real Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday? Books, The Guardian. Consumers reading 1800s United Kingdom, A Girl of Genius Archives Unsealed of Amy Levy, queer Jewish writer admired by Oscar Wilde. Books, The Guardian. Consumers travel tips to learn a foreign language before you travel. The New York Times. Democrat John Fetterman, Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman suffers face injury in fall outside home, Pennsylvania. The Guardian. Democrat Michelle Obama dishes the secrets behind her most famous outfits. Best podcasts of the week, television and radio. The Guardian. Democrats. Senate Democrats who defected in shutdown vote. This was the only deal. U.S. federal government shutdown 2025. The Guardian. Democrats sift through the ashes of the shutdown after resistance finally breached. Democrats. The Guardian. Florida Air Force Base orders residents to take down Christmas decor. U.S. military. The Guardian. Games. Fortnite. The Simpsons season is a worthy tribute to one of the most celebrated shows of all time. Games. The Guardian. Games. Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen execution review. Spectacular if baffling anime is out to thrill and bewilder movies. The Guardian. Games. We were effectively props. Young stars of game development feel let down by the gaming Oscars. Games. The Guardian. Games. What does my love for impossibly difficult video games say about me? Games. The Guardian. Housing. How can we make the housing crisis even worse? Donald Trump has a plan. Arwa Madawi. The Guardian. Internet. Ultra-rich media owners are tightening their grip on democracy. It is time to wrest our power back. Robert Wright. The Guardian. Movie The Devil Wears Prada 2 first teaser trailer for hotly anticipated sequel. Meryl Streep. The Guardian. Movie Diabolical Move. The Miranda Priestley red shoes get Instagram fashion faux pas. The Guardian. Movie reviews swear promote yourself and pretend you are on a first date. A guide for celebrities to the letterboxed 4 favorites movies. The Guardian. Music. Games. Guitar Hero at 20. How a plastic axe bridged the gap between rock generations. Games. The Guardian. Music. Humor. Jeff Barrow of Portishead. I cannot think of any worse music to make love to than ours. Music. The Guardian. Music. Schubert 4 Hand's album review. Affectionately searching accounts from two pianists in emotional synergy classical music. The Guardian. Musk the Elon Musk Grok AI briefly, says Trump won 2020 presidential election US elections 2020. The Guardian. Musk, it suits my bitter heart to know that no matter how much money Elon Musk has, he will never ever be funny. Rebecca Shaw. The Guardian. Oklahoma, hundreds evacuated and dozens hospitalized. After an ammonia gas leak in Oklahoma, The Guardian. Republicans lies damned lies, and AI, the newest way to influence elections, may be here to stay. U.S. politics. The Guardian. Republicans are scrambling to reclaim affordability. Rosep views sarcasm from the article headline. Good luck with that, Judith Levine. The Guardian. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Rosep view what quack cure will RFK Jr. suggest? Bloodletting with leeches? From the article headline. High blood pressure rates in children nearly doubled in 20 years. Global review finds children. The Guardian. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Rosep view a distraction cooked up by RFK Jr. appears to be a real problem in the real world. The RFK Jr. solution is probably to market pricey food and $500 juicer machines to replace ultra-processed instead of suggesting normal low-fat food stripped of processing oatmeal. Anyone pop your own popcorn? From the article headline. Ultra-processed foods may help explain rising bowel cancer in under 50. Study suggests ultra-processed foods. The Guardian. Social media beauty filters may look harmless, but they are quietly affecting the mental health of black youths. Race. The Guardian. TV. The Beast in Me review. The Claire Danes' astonishing new thriller is instant top-tier TV, television, and radio. The Guardian. TV. Trump and J.D. Vance have graphic sex in South Park. South Park. The Guardian. Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. Food insecurity leaves long-term scars. The snap cuts are no exception. Priya Fielding Singh. The Guardian. Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. Trump signs funding bill to end longest U.S. government shutdown. U.S. politics. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Blurred lines. How Michael Wolff aspired to be part of elite circles. He wrote about Michael Wolff. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Cryptic Jeffrey Epstein emails fan fresh wave of speculation over the Trump denials. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout emails reveal Jeffrey Epstein and associate discuss girls and travel. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Epstein emails key takeaways from 20,000 pages of newly released files. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Epstein kept close eye on Trump even after friendship soured. Newly released emails reveal Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. The Guardian view on Trump and Epstein. The truth about MAHA and its conspiracy theories. Editorial. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. How the Jeffrey Epstein row plunged MAHA world into turmoil. A timeline. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. United Kingdom latest Epstein emails cast further doubt on the Andrew claim of cutting ties. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Nothing to see here. Trump press chief in full denial mode over Epstein. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Speaker Mike Johnson says he will not block House vote to release Epstein files. Mike Johnson. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Trump faces prospect of congressional vote on releasing Epstein files. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. U.S. government reopens after longest ever shutdown. House to vote on Epstein files next week. Live. Trump Epstein fallout. U.S. House to vote next week on bill compelling release of Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump lawsuits for personal reasons. James Comey and Letitia James to challenge validity of Trump era charges. Letitia James. The Guardian. Trump pardons Donald Trump to pardon UK billionaire and former Tottenham owner Joe Lewis. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Utah oldest LGBTQ+ bar closes amid workers and their union push. We feel extremely disposable. LGBTQ+ rights. The Guardian. U.S. House of Representatives. House passes funding bill to end U.S. shutdown. See how lawmakers voted. U.S. politics. The Guardian. West Virginia dirty energy fossil fuel coal mining. Body of missing coal miner found in flooded West Virginia mine. Governor says West Virginia. The Guardian. Women feminist history for every day of the year by Kate Moss review. The women who helped change the world. Kate Moss. The Guardian. Brazil COP30. Despite the absence of America, the Trump influence looms large over COP30 environment. The Guardian. Brazil COP30 guns, gangs, and drought. How crime and the climate crisis are reshaping Haiti. The Guardian. Brazil COP30 live calls for just transition plan grow as report warns world on track for 2.6 centigrade of heating. Brazil COP30 major U.S. broadcasters sit out COP30 climate talks. They are missing a lot. U.S. News. The Guardian. Brazil COP30 dirty energy oversupply of oil could create glut of 4 million barrels a day, says energy watchdog Oil. The Guardian. Brazil COP30 dirty energy. Rosep view predictable human error as demonstrated repeatedly makes nuclear energy an example of dirty energy. Either predictable nuclear power plant disasters happen or nuclear power plants are held hostage with threat of disaster during wartime or nuclear bombs spread toxic radiation around the world. Is the Trump U.S. only disappointed that the UK will not buy predictably eventually polluting small modular nuclear reactors from the U.S.? From the article headline. U.S. disappointed that Rolls-Royce will build the UK first small modular reactors. Nuclear power. The Guardian. Brazil COP30 world still on track for catastrophic 2.6 centigrade temperature rise. Report finds environment. The Guardian. Mexico takes action to combat sexual abuse after president publicly groped Mexico. The Guardian. Canada says Russia and China are ramping up spy efforts in Arctic region. Canada. The Guardian. United Kingdom. How should we tackle reform and the rise of the far right? Our Gen Z panel has some ideas. Jackson Peace. Talia Wooden Mabe. Kiri Rohan Sathimurthy and Chavi Mesquita. The Guardian. United Kingdom. I opened up like a giant elevator. The 7 sly savage stages of a $100,000 romance scam. Life in style. The Guardian. United Kingdom. Rosep view Trump lawsuits for personal reasons extends to second lawsuit against BBC Newsnight on BBC Two. From the article headline. Newsnight accused of selectively editing same Trump Capitol riot speech as Panorama. Newsnight. The Guardian. European Union. EU investigates Google over demotion of commercial content from news media. Google. The Guardian. Europe. Rosep view Right-wing warning for U.S. Democrats from the article headline Resilience of the Populist Right of Europe carries warning for U.S. Democrats. U.S. politics. The Guardian, the Netherlands, China. I would do it all again, says Dutch minister at heart of car chip standoff. With China automotive industry. The Guardian. France commemorates victims of Paris attacks. 10 years on in pictures Paris attacks. The Guardian. Germany. The car belongs in Berlin City. Backpedaling on bike-friendly policies. Critics say Germany. The Guardian. Germany decides against conscription to replenish the after the Cold War military. Germany. The Guardian. Germany. Did Hitler really have a micropenis? The dubious documentary analyzing the DNA of the dictator. Television. The Guardian. Ukraine. Marina Lewicka, the British-Ukrainian author, dies, age 79. Books. The Guardian. Ukraine. The Ukraine PM announces plans to audit public companies. Corruption is unacceptable. Europe Live. Czech Republic. Babiš Trumpist. Czech PM elect refuses to sell business empire amid conflict of interest. Row. Czech Republic. The Guardian. Serbia. Belgrade. Rozep view Trump in law profits in Serbian development deal in country ruled by a dictator. From the article headline Thousands protest Jared Kushner linked development on site of bombed out Belgrade building. Serbia. The Guardian. Serbia. Belgrade. Serbia secretly agreed deal with Jared Kushner firm to develop protected Belgrade site. Serbia. The Guardian. Syria. We were forced to burn bodies. Will survivors of the Tatamon massacres see justice? Syria. The Guardian. Libya. Dirty energy state sanctioned fuel smuggling cost Libya $20 billion over 3 years. Report. Libya. The Guardian. Lagos. Fashion has the power to create jobs, preserve culture, and transform lives. Is Lagos the most exciting fashion week in the world? Fashion. The Guardian. China. Hong Kong City on fire. Review. Tarantino inspiring Hong Kong. Thriller burns with grit and moral tension. Movies. The Guardian. Japan. Amid the Japan surge in bear attacks, a torrent of AI-generated videos is adding to anxiety. Japan. The Guardian. Taiwan. Movie. The Left Hand is the hand of the devil. How Shi Ching Tsao turned childhood trauma into extraordinary drama. Movies. The Guardian. Taiwan. Movie. Left-handed girl. Review. Striking Taiwanese family drama is a real marvel. Sean Baker. The Guardian. Thailand. Fatal clash on Thai-Cambodia border after Trump brokered peace deal breaks down Cambodia. The Guardian. Headlines. Other media. November 13, 2025. Democrats introduce discharge petition to force vote on extension of Obamacare subsidies. Healthcare. 5 ways our healthcare system has become utterly insane. Your local epidemiologist. Healthcare tips. Free asthma coach program. Allergy and Asthma Network healthcare tips. Trusted messengers. Allergy and Asthma Network Substack letters from an American. Heather Cox Richardson. November 12, 2025. Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich. Rozep view consumers let down. From the article headline hemp-derived THC drinks edibles could soon disappear due to shutdown. Bill Trump Epstein Fallout live video with Jim Acosta. Now breaking new Epstein emails released with Addie Dave Ehrenberg and Stephanie Rule Lindekar 2@gmail.com. Gmail excerpts. Other media. November 13, 2025. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. FDA brought in search for CDR director to replace Tidmarsh. Stat. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. FDA officials offer roadmap for gene editing cases like baby KJ. Stat. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. How to FDA officials Prasad and Hogue seized vaccine oversight. Stat. RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Hush Hush MAHA summit to feature RFK Jr. Vance and biotech leaders. Stat. RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Insiders Vinay Prasad wreaking havoc at FDA after return from exile. Stat. RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science. 7 Vance calls MAHA movement an incredible part of Trump's success. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Stat. November 2025. Health Secretary RFK Jr. welcomes Vice President J.D. Vance. During the official MAHA summit in Washington, D.C., Vice President J.D. Vance lauded the Make America Healthy Again movement as an incredible part of the Trump success at a mostly closed-door event at the glitzy Waldorf Astoria on Wednesday. Dubbed the official MAHA summit, top federal health officials and health industry execs gathered to talk about psychedelics, food as medicine, and how to reverse aging. The Vance conversation with Health Secretary RFK Jr. was broadcast, but the rest of the event took place in secret. One planner described it as hush-hush advertisement. The night before, MAHA VIPs, among them Zen Honeycutt, founder of Moms Across America, Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, and Ultimate Human podcast host Gary Brecka mingled with RFK Jr. at a party in the hotel lobby. The next day, attendees included Dennis Kucinich, the former Democratic lawmaker who was briefly the RFK Jr. presidential campaign manager. Regenerative farmers had coffee at the sleek hotel bar, and wellness influencers shook hands and unpacked swag bags. Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Marty Makary said hello. It was a strange mix of bedfellows biotech executives, including Regeneron fellow founder and science chief George Yancopoulos and CRISPR Therapeutics CEO Sam Kulkarni, alongside conservative wellness influencers like Brecka and actor Russell Brand. Mehmet Oz, who oversees Medicare and Medicaid. Jay Bhattacharya, who directs the National Institutes of Health, also attended a MAHA summit, minus the radical transparency leaders of biotech firms who may be skeptical of the RFK Jr. agenda, the Trump MAGA base, and the RFK Jr. MAHA coalition. The summit could be potentially lucrative for companies. Hundreds of people across government, the healthcare industry, venture capital, and MAHA groups. The gathering was closed to the press around noon. RFK Jr. showed up to a fireside chat with Vance. The vice president adopted the RFK Jr. signature skepticism of traditionally accepted public health interventions. His appearance, attendees said, was interpreted as a clear signal of the importance of the MAHA movement to the future of the Republican coalition. I do not like taking medications, Vance said, mentioning an aversion to ibuprofen. I do not like taking anything unless I absolutely have to, and I think that is another MAHA-style attitude. It is not against medication, it is against useless medication. He continued. Vance suggested his wife, Usha, focused on feeding the healthy foods of their children, even if she would not necessarily claim that identity for herself. She was in reality an original MAHA The vice president said attendees were given swag bags loaded with MAHA friendly goodies creatine by momentous Vandy potato crisps, which are cooked in beef tallow, and a copy of the Real RFK Jr. Trials of a Truth Warrior published by Skyhorse, which was founded by Tony Lyons. The leader of MAHA Action officials emphasized their work prioritizing primary care and expanding access to GLP-1 ounces told attendees that GLP-1 pills would be coming in March. The Trump administration announced earlier this month that oral versions of the weight loss drugs, which it pledged to review for approval much faster than usual, would cost $150 through the direct-to-consumer Trump RX platform. Jay Bhattacharya, director of the NIH, reassured the audience that the federal government would remain a key player in funding crucial research. Months of major research funding cuts from the Trump administration. The topic of vaccines, one of the MAHA core issues, and perhaps one of its most divisive, was not a major focus. People in attendance said Vance said science is practiced in its best form is that if you disagree with it, then you ought to criticize it. RFK Jr. MAHA lack of knowledge of medicine and science. 8. What a pro-vaccine doc learned at an anti-vax conference. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Stat: I am a physician who went to the biggest gathering of the against vaccine movement. More of my colleagues should too. At the Health Defense of Children conference in Texas, I saw what public health is up against. Anti-vaccine protesters hold signs outside of Houston Methodist Hospital in 2021 after 153 employees either resigned or were fired for refusing a COVID vaccination. Stat: November 11th, 2025 at the Health Defense of Children CHD conference last weekend in Austin, Texas, a gregarious man approached holding two tall plastic tubes he said contained clots from COVID-vaccinated bodies. After 36 years in the Air Force, he told me he had been pushed out for refusing the shot. Now in retirement, he calls funeral homes and surveys undertakers to document alleged vaccine harms. Over the next 2 days, I heard versions of the same arc again and again. Lost reframed his mission. Grievance redirected into organizing. I came to CHD out of curiosity to hear how this movement wins people over and why its message resonates so deeply. Over 2 days, I spoke with dozens of attendees between sessions and as a guest on the podcast. Why should I trust you? I did not change any minds, nor did my convictions waver.
Red Green Fox here. The quick Red Green Fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red Green Fox here. Ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Kommite Schoen Luft, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzexwissenskich Istet, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carlson Council. 10. Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's Corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies, which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. Rozep view: the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions. Yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, The Eco-Design with Stoven International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. ROSEP Purple Air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.